And the hereditary chiefs of the Gitxsan First Nation have now rejected the Northern Gateway Pipeline proposal. That's the one that would carry crude from the oil sands to BC's north coast. Public hearings into that $5.5 billion pipeline project continue amid growing concern about foreign influence on both sides of the argument. U.S. and British foundations support the pipeline opponents, and an expert at UVic says there is a bigger, more worrisome story about who supports it. CTV's Brett Manier reports.
For the record, Terry Glavin says he is not anti-oil sands.
No, I'm not anti-oil sands at all. More than 80% of Canada's oil resources are tied up in the oil sands. What are we going to do, shut it all down?
But he says the debate has been polluted.
It should be a Canadian debate that represents Canadian interests. And my question to these foreign-funded environmental groups is, why do you think that your foreign interest funders know what's better for Canada than Canadians do?
The argument by the pro-oil sands lobby Ethical Oil is catching on. First the Prime Minister, then his Natural Resource Minister, BC's Finance Minister, and recently the Premier.
That these people should butt out and leave this to Canadians, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think Canadians benefit from foreign meddling in our decisions, and I think we are perfectly capable of making these decisions.
Alarm raised by politicians and lobby groups about the foreign funding of environmental groups misses the point, Glavin says. Beijing is going completely unnoticed.
They're buying things up like there's no tomorrow. More than $20 billion worth of investment over the last 2 or 3 years.
Spring 2010, China's state-owned SINOPEC buys a $4.65 billion piece of SYNCRUDE. Later that year, China Investment Corp, run by the Communist Party of China, buys a $1.25 billion share of Penwest Petroleum. Chinese National Oil Corporation bought OPTI Oil Canada last summer for $2.34 billion. In December, Daylight Energy Limited goes to SINOPEC for $2.2 billion. And this month, as politicians blasted environmental groups, PetroChina buys a major project from Athabasca Oil Sands Corp for $1.9 billion.
This is a Chinese project, and I think we should be honest about that. The Chinese are buying up properties in the oil sands. They're funding a pipeline to bring that bitumen to salt water, to send it to Chinese refineries so that they can ship cheap goods back into North America.
As both sides speak out about foreign influence, the process continues. The last of the public hearings will be in Courtenay at the end of March. Enbridge and other stakeholders won't finish until spring 2013. Brett Manier.
Brett joins us now live in the studio with more. Brett, it would seem to undercut the message that's coming out from Ethical Oil. How do they respond to this?
Yeah, well, Hudson, we did get a response from them on the story via email. Spokesperson Catherine Marshall says that some investment in Canada's oil patch comes from China. She says that our oil resources are publicly owned, and any producer, foreign or Canadian, earns the privilege of tapping them only if it lives up to Canadian law. Now, in our discussions with Terry Glavin, though, he says those laws just have not kept pace with growth.
Interestingly, in Washington today, Republican presidential hopeful Newt Gingrich said the Keystone decision from the White House will just drive Canada farther into the arms of the Chinese. And as you have reported, that's already happening.
Yeah, and this is obviously, Keystone is going to put the big push on to get this Northern Gateway project done.
All right, Brett Manier reporting. Brett, thank you.
You bet.